Good evening, all you lovely people out there, and welcome to the official Topic Talk. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so each time I go live or produce a video, you'll get a notification. Now, tonight I've got a very special guest on. He is Telford's finest. He is Telford's first ever BKB pro fighter to come out of Telford, Kyle Goodwin. Kyle, welcome to the show, and thank you ever so much. It's a privilege to have you on, mate.
Cheers for having me on, Stephen. Let's get out there and get my name around.
No problem. First of all, I want to ask you, where did it all start for you? From the very first.
Well, I started boxing I've only been boxing about 6 years. Growing up, I was football mad, just pure football. That's all I wanted to do, play football, anything football. And then about 6 years ago, I was probably walking around at about 120 plus kilo, and I signed up to a couple of charity events, and then I stuck on the unlicensed circuit. There had a few, I think it was 17, 18 fights on the unlicensed circuit. And then in that time, I had a bit of drama go on with my son. And we'll go back to that now. We'll go back to the beginning. Started off, did 4 white collars, did them. Well, yeah, I know, I like this. Enjoyed it, enjoyed the fitness. Weight started coming off. But yeah, then someone said, "Oh, you ever thought about doing unlicensed?" Nah, get a bit of cash to fight. So yeah, why not? Let's go and have a punch up, 6 minutes, and then get paid. So I did that, and then from there, I just fell in love with it, man. That's it. Now boxing, and then now I've made that jump to the fucking ruthless side, haven't I? With the bare knuckle. My debut didn't go to plan, but it's one of them, innit? I got in there with a fucking animal of a fighter in Jamie Hendry, and yeah, we're here now.
I mean, going back to your ultra white collar boxing, how would you see the difference between that and when you first got into the unlicensed boxing?
But the gloves for a start, in the white collar, you're fighting in head guard and 16-ounce gloves. My first fight on the unlicensed was in 10-ounce gloves, and you feel every punch, and it's like, yeah, this is. I'm not going back to the white collar. I'm going to stay on the unlicensed. So I stuck at that. Couple of wins, couple of losses. I've won myself a memorial belt, Henry Gibbs memorial belt, as well. Just before lockdown come, I was due to defend it and fight for another title, and then obviously lockdown come. So,
how many fights did you previous to winning that belt?
before I won my belt, I had I think it's about 10 fights before my belt. Well, I lost my first 4 fights. I lost them all. Lost every single one of them. And
who's the toughest fighter that you've had to date?
It's got to be Jamie Hendry on the bare knuckle. I've never been hit like that, man. Even on the streets, I ain't been hit like that, man. He's a fucking machine, he is.
And on the training side, I know I spoke to Tony. Tony's self-taught, self-trained. What about yourself? Have you got a trainer?
Yeah, well, I train up with Bavs and Ash Addison and lads at Fight Lab, but I've mainly been, I'm more like a gym trainer. I've not really done it on my own like Tony. Tony's come through and he's done everything himself in his garage. Where I've gone to the gyms and I was a big fat fuck. I couldn't move, man. I had to go to them gyms to learn how to move on my feet, man. I still to this day don't move my feet. Get moaned at. Oh, your feet, man. Lazy feet. But everyone
and
picks
you fight
up.
Out of Telford Fight Club, is it?
Yeah, fight at Telford Fight Club or Fight Lab UK. They're the same gym,
And then, how long's the gym been up now? Because I know it's relatively new, isn't it?
Yeah, we are. It is a relative. Well, Telford Fight Club's been going for a while. We started back up just before Christmas, but before that, we was Telford White Collar Boxing. And so we've changed names, but we started back up just before Christmas last year. We were renting the premises, and then obviously the owners they just thought, you know what, let's get our own premises. They got their own premises, and now we fight out of gym up Iron Bridge.
And what's your record to date on?
A record, I've had 17 glove fights, 8 and 9. And then my bare knuckle, I'm 0-1 at the moment on bare knuckle, but I've got my next bare knuckle the 22nd of October.
Yeah, I do believe you've got a massive scrap coming up, haven't you? Is it the prize fight?
Yeah, I've got an 8-man prize fighter coming up, which is there's some good lads in there. It's going to be a test, like 3 fights one night, possibly. Like, but I'm coming down in weight, so I'm coming down from a weight class above, so we should. Well, depends on it. But there's a mix in there. It's all the top lads, as they say. Basically, you got boxers, you got punchers, you got counter punchers.
Is that going to be an advantage, do you reckon, losing a bit of weight, or are you more happier at the weight you're at?
It could be an advantage for me, but then again, the lads that have come in or at their natural weight, they could be a lot quicker, a lot better boxer, a lot lighter on their feet. So with a prize fighter, it's whoever turns up on the day. Like, it's 3 fights in one night. You could go out, smash your first fight, get caught your second fight, game over. It's my first time in a prize fighter as well, so
basically they just turn up and whoever's there turned up on the fight, you get fights, so you get no like research into them. Do you research your fighters?
In a prize fighter, you can't really research who you're going to be fighting because there's 8 people in there, and that first round you can get any one of the other 7 people that are there.
But in general, with your bare knuckle, do you do like the research on the fighters, or is that something you're looking into?
On him, like the guy I'm fighting now, I've done a bit of research on him. I know he's coming over from the pit fighting as well, so I've already been in there with a pit fighter, so I know the kind of style that they bring. But everyone's got their own style, so.
And how often do you train?
When I'm in camp, train every day. Every day we'll be training. If I'm not at the gym, I'll be running. If I'm not running, I'll be swimming. Not there, we're up the gym sparring.
I was going to say, do you reckon sparring helps?
Yeah, you learn a lot from sparring, I think. Other people have their own opinions of it, don't they?
I mean, I was saying before, you know, with sparring, I mean, someone can just jab you once in the wrong place and you end up with an injury, and then that's it. You know, you're screwed.
This week sparring, I got caught on the nose. My nose went. It's one of them, isn't it? As soon as it was getting tapped, then my nose pissing the blood. But fuck it, that's the game we're in. That's the sport we're at. It's a fight game. Like, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
No, that's true. And what's your opinion between the difference of white collar boxing to unlicensed boxing to BKB? I mean, it's more vicious, isn't it?
The bone on bone, it's either going to knock you out or it's going to cut you. When it hits you, it feels like fucking like you got hit with a stone or something. Like someone's threw a stone when your knuckles hit you.
And I mean, I've seen some of your videos and your fights, and I mean, there was one in particular. It was a fucking massive guy. The guy was like a fucking giant. What was his name now? I can't think of his name.
Pugh.
That massive guy.
Yeah, I thought, like, obviously because I was fighting up at cruiserweight and heavyweight, I was fighting people. They all 6 foot plus, man, and there's only little 5'10" me. But
that was it. Pugh.
Yeah, Joey Pugh.
He was fucking massive, mate.
Yeah, 6 foot something here. 6'6", I think Joey is. He's a big lad. He was built like a big lad as well, to be fair.
I mean, when I watched that fight, I was like, I know, you know, in life, as you know, size don't matter.
Yeah.
You know, but to compare his size to your size, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'm only short myself, man. That's the thing. That's why I need to come down more in weight. Fighting up at light heavyweight as well. I'm still fighting people that are 6 foot plus, and it's soul crushing, really, when you have to look up at people.
And do you believe that you need heart? You need heart to get into
That's
this
one
game.
thing. That's one thing you can't teach. You've either got it or you ain't. You've either got the heart or you ain't got the heart. And
you can teach technique, can't you? But you can't
yeah,
teach heart.
you can teach heart, and heart's what wins your fights.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people. Not going to mention no names. I mean, over the past couple of years, I mean, as soon as they get hit once, they just dive on the floor. You know, I don't see the point of that.
You get a few like that on the circuit. Like you get a few of the journeymen that they get paid to take a slap.
Take a backhander at the beginning as soon as you get. But then you got the genuine ones that when they get hit and it hurts them a little bit, they just tend to give up. And they're the ones that've got no heart. They, you know, should be in the game.
They're the ones that they got all the talent. Like they can go, they can box and that, but when they get hit, they don't like being hit.
I mean, that's the whole point of the sport, isn't it? You know, to get hit and to give a hit.
The aim of the sport's to hit and not be hitting it. It's the sweet science of the game, isn't it? They say.
But I mean, it's a lot different to street fighting, though, isn't it? I mean, because street fighting, you can chuck punches anywhere.
You're doing bare knuckle. Oh, it's fucking wrong. That is, but it's boxing. It's under boxing rules. We're in the ring. Yeah, we got no gloves on, but what's the difference with the MMA with the elbows and the knees? And
I mean, so you got this massive bloody 8-man prize fight coming up. What's your feelings towards that? I hope you win, and I hope you come away with that prize. And
the plan to go in there and win, isn't it? That's the plan. Like I'm going in there anyway, any means possible. Anyone, let's have it. Like.
I mean, the trainer's had enough experience of that, hasn't he? Ash has won that, hasn't he?
Ash has won a prize fighter, which is good to have him in my corner, to have him training with me, because he can tell me the experience from it. So, but like I said, any of them can have it. So, I'm going in there to win. That's the option. That's the only way I'm going.
Would I be right in saying like there would be an element of luck? You know, because if you get that one punch, it's game over, isn't it?
Any boxing match is a puncher's chance, isn't it? Anyone can land that one punch and it can shut anyone's lights out. So you've always got that risk in the game. But it's one of them. It's a risk you're taking. Are you willing to take that risk to try and land it, to get landed on, or?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes you've got to take a punch to get into position to
give one sometimes.
But well, I wish you well with especially this 8-man prize fight coming up. You know, I wish you very well. And like I say, you've put Telford on the map yourself personally. You know, being the first pro BKB fighter to come out of Telford, and that
could have been a winning record to go with it, though, couldn't it? But
it don't matter, does it? You've got the title, you've earned it. You know, no one can take that off you, can they?
No, that's it. That's the one I got now, isn't it? But
and I mean, it's nice. Like, there's not many pro BKB fighters out there, but to come from my hometown, you know, you've got 1,000,000% support from me. You know, each and every time you put Telford on the map, basically. Is there anything else you that I haven't covered that you would like to get out there to the people? Any shout outs or?
I still got shout out to all the lads at the gym, Ash, Babs, all the training they put in with me, all the sparring partners, Kirk, Jay, fucking Ash, Miles. There's too many, man. We just keep going if we have to do that. Got my sponsors, The Fuse, Tony Meehan, BKB, Woodland Timber Products, RS Gas.
And this is the man that's going to take Telford to the top.
That's it. Well, give me that Miami payday. Give me that Miami payday.
Get that money rolling in. Do you hear this, people? Who are your sponsors, Kyle?
My sponsors are The Fuse UK, Tony Meehan BKB, I've got Woodland Timber Products, which is Ash Addison's business, and then I've got my uncle RS Gas, is a plumber from round here, local plumber.
Right, we got Ronan from Holden Official. He's joined us now, buddy.
No,
Thanks,
mate.
Steve. Thanks, Steve.
Hi,
Thanks.
Ronan.
How you
Anything
doing?
you want to put to Kyle?
No, Kyle. Just Steve was telling me you're a bare-knuckle boxer. You got into the white collar stuff at the beginning, and it's sort of taken off. That's great. It's good to hear.
Yeah. I started like I said, started off on the white collars. Then obviously COVID come, that knocked it back. My son got ill in that time as well. Got diagnosed with leukemia in that time, so that set it back like another year or so. And then I seen Jim Freeman put up a post about he needed a boxer for the BKBTM down in London. So I put my name forward, and it was to fight Ricky Naldo. I think I took that on like 14 days notice. And I broke my ankle 9 days out, man. I was wounded.
Nasty. And you broke your ankle, so the fight didn't go ahead then.
Yeah. So I didn't get to fight Naldo in the end, which that would have been like out of all the bare knuckles. I think that would have been the one dream, you know. I took that fight on 14 days notice.
Yeah. There's a couple of questions. So, what rule set do you fight under? Because is there different rule sets for different sort of boxing, bare knuckle boxing, or is it just one rule set?
You've got the American rules, and then you've basically got like the English rules, which is like BKBTM. You can't hold and fight in the clinch, where BKFC you can hold and fight in the clinch.
Big difference, isn't it?
So that clinch is a different game. Like I made my debut on BFBA, their last show in Sheffield, and that fighting in the clinch is a different ball game, man.
Well, what you're fighting is you're fighting like a lot of MMA guys are transitioning over the BKFC, and they're having really good sort of debuts because basically they've just worked in the clinch all their life up against the cage, and they know how to do that the dirty boxing up against the clinch.
They know how to hold you and hit you and say, wait, you're just a boxer and you're trying to figure that out still. So
but
it is a different mindset.
But, what's your hardest fight to date then?
My hardest fight's Jamie Hendry, my first bare knuckle.
And how did that go?
He's an animal, man. He's 30 seconds. He just steamrolled me, man. He come in there. I knew he was going to come fast coming from the pit fighting, but I didn't think he was going to come that fast onto me. And I didn't think his punches were going to be like that direct, man, and everything just come through, man. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so the pit fighting, for the people that don't know that's in the hay bales.
In the hay bales, yeah.
So that's fast. I don't know if you've seen the new one. There's a new one in a phone box.
I've seen that on TikTok. I seen someone put it up on TikTok, man.
What is the fucking going on there? But mate, I'm not gonna lie to you. It looks brilliant. But see, people, when you say the pit fighting, people don't really understand what that means. It's very fast. It's very explosive. There's no room. You're basically in a big phone box. And if you're fighting a guy like that, they know how to fight in the pocket. So if you're in with a guy like that, you can never. If you can't take a punch, there's no point being in there.
Nope. But like they also said as well, like Tony said to me before my debut, Kyle, you'll know, from the first punch whether you want to be back in there. And I got out the ring with my nose across my face and that, and I was like, yo, get me back on the next show. Get me back in there, like the buzz is different, like it's a different buzz.
Yeah, so what's it like? So you go in, right? Obviously, listen, I've been in fights, but I've never been in a professional sort of fight. You're under the lights. You're this new guy. As I say, you've moved up the ranks from the white collar. You go in here for the first time. What's it like? What's the feeling like? Is your heart pound? Do you think is it completely different?
The feeling goes back to your very first ever fight. Like I stood there. I was all right when I got there, walking around and got changed, got wrapped up, and then that's when it started sinking in. But it was on the way there. I went a bit quiet in the car. I was like, nah. It's in the sign for Sheffield. Boom, nerves kicking in. We got there. I felt all right walking around, and then when I'm stood there and I heard my name, and I was like, Tony's like, I told you, didn't I? I was like, yeah, fuck me, they've nerves a bit now.
I don't know, man. Listen, fair play to you. I don't know if I have the balls to do that. It's not even about the fight, because the fight, two fellas can have. I've been in fights before, but I don't know if I could have in front of all those people. It takes a different. You know.
Just learn over and over again from fighting. You just learn to blank out, like you just black out the crowd. Really, to be fair, you go into the zone, like look at the ring, and that's it. That's what I do when I make my ring walk. I focus on the ring. That's it. So I ain't got anyone else to focus on. Then I know where I'm going. I'm going in there. I'm going to get you.
Yeah. What's your end goal? What's the end goal? Are you looking just to fight, just for a bit of crack? Are you looking to like actually make a career out of this?
I'm looking to make a career out of it. Like I'm looking to go as far as I can go with it. If I can get to the top, I can get to the top. Give me them big paydays, and let's fucking have them.
Well, this is it, man. Because people don't realize, right, that as time goes on, you make a name for yourself, and then just for instance, a McGregor comes into the BKFC, needs a guy to come in to sort of warm him up into the BKFC, and they're always looking for those fighters, and then that's whenever your name gets thrown in there. Do you know what I mean? So it's you have to take your opportunities. And I always say this. Sorry, go ahead.
That's what I said with the Jamie Envy fight. Like it was, you know what, take the opportunity and get my name out there, because I'd already meant to been on fucking two bare knuckle shows, and I broke my ankle on the one. The second one got pulled, so it was like, you know what, fuck it, take it, and let's just go. Like just turn up and go and do what I can do.
So what's your attributes? How do you win your fights then?
I'm more of a brawler, I am, but I'm starting to learn to box now, and now I can mix the two up. It makes it awkward because people don't know. Before, people knew they were going to get Kyle that's just going to come out and walk with his hands down when I first started boxing, but now they're not sure if they're going to get the Kyle that's going to come out and try and box, or the Kyle that's going to come out and have a war. So,
yeah, in that type of fighting, in your opinion, what's the best thing to know? If there was somebody just coming into it now, what would be the first thing that you would say to them to train on?
Head movement. Get your head moving.
Right. Don't get hit. Yeah. Yeah.
What made you jump, Cole, from unlicensed to the BKB?
Well, sat in hospital. I used to watch it with my son on telly, and he's like, "Dad, I want to watch you on the telly." Just started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, Dad, go and fight like this." He's like, "Yeah, yeah." So we just went from there, like, and yeah.
How do you find to mix it all up, like with family life? It must be a bit of a strain on you.
Yeah, well, obviously, a bit of issues a few years back, just before Rory got diagnosed. I had to take my kids on full time, and yeah, at first I was living with my nan and granddad, so it weren't that hard at first because nan and granddad were there. I could go train, but now I'm living on my own. It's a bit harder. Nan and granddad are still there. They still have them most days. The kids sometimes come up to the gym with us as well. They sit in the corner and watch us train. And so, yeah, just mainly train when the kids are at school as well. Like they go to school and I'll go down the gym, or I'll go down the sauna or the steam room, and I'll get it out of the way when they're at school. So I know when I finish there on the way home, get the kids, I'm home then, I'm done.
Do you have to weight cut?
Yeah, I'm weight cutting at the moment. I'm going down to 79 kilo.
Oh,
it's fucking killing me, man. I just want a bottle of pop and a big fat Nando's, man.
Well, tell us about that. I want to know how do you weight cut? Have you got a good team around you, or are you just winging it?
I intermittent fast. I do, like, I won't eat for so long, then I'll eat just a little bit, like just pure protein I'm on at the moment, like eggs, tuna. I'll have a little bit of rice with it, mix it up, but nah, I'm not doing nothing so stupid again and taking a fight down so low, man. I don't like fucking this dieting shit's not for me, man. It's a fucking killer.
So what do you normally fight at? What's your sort of weight?
I normally fight. Well, I was fighting up at heavyweight and cruiserweight, then I come down to light heavyweight. So I normally fight around 85 kilo, but I'm going right fucking down, man.
Wow. So that's actually a big cut for you then. So do you think? I'm just going to speak out loud here, but do you think if you say that you're sort of coming in with that brawling sort of technique, you're going to have to rely on that power? Do you think maybe the weight cutting's going to cut off some of that power that you have?
I don't know. I think I should be all right with it being the day before weigh-in. I've got plenty of time to refuel my body and get back to it. like
Do you
get
think
back
that's
to
important?
body
Do you think that's
nutrition and everything.
Do you think dietary is important to you at the moment, seeing as now you're into the pro ranking?
I don't know. It just all depends, really.
No
Well,
beer.
I'll put Kyle's links in the description box for everyone to go off and subscribe to his channel.
And do you
Yeah.
tell me, have you knocked? So have you knocked many people out? Have you been knocked out before yourself?
I haven't been knocked out. I've been stopped like on a count, but I've never been knocked out. I've got one knockout on my record, but I've got a few stoppages as well. Like,
Is there any fighters that you look up to, like for inspiration?
just anyone really that gets in there, really, you look up to that's higher than you. You're always going to look up to them, aren't you? Because they're getting in there, they've done it before you. They're showing you the example of how to be, where to be, how to get there.
Yeah, see when it comes to this is the thing. See, when you're looking for inspiration in other sports people, there's not too many men that would fight in a bare knuckle boxing fight. Like, people don't realize that the difference between bare knuckle boxing and boxing. Like, I always say it, I do people's heads in with this, but you have a guy, Artem Lobov, who was an MMA guy, he wasn't shit, but he was one of the lowest rank UFC fighters ever. And he fought Paulie Malignaggi in a BKFC fight and beat him. And Paulie Malignaggi was a world champion boxer. So that's the difference between bare knuckle boxing and boxing. You take off those gloves and you're fucked. So I would actually say fair play to the boxers. It's a brutal sport, one of the most dangerous sports in the world. But see, for the exterior of your face, see bare knuckle boxing, it is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it's like being slashed with a blade when you get hit with the knuckles, man.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, I've never done it before, but just watching you guys, it's entertaining as fuck to watch. I'm watching it on the TV, and I'm like, why would you do this to yourself? Why would you actually do this to yourself? It has to be a good payday, but as I say, most of the
off, haven't we?
So, if you don't mind me asking, I don't know if Steve talked about it before I came in, but your son was diagnosed with leukemia. How has that affected you, and how is he doing?
See, I think with my son being diagnosed, it set everything back. Like, it knocked me back from training. I didn't want to go training. I wanted to be by his side. I haven't left him basically from day one. Like, boom, since he got diagnosed, now I haven't left his side still to this day. And I don't know really. Like, everyone says, "Oh, it quietened you down." But it's one of them. I don't really know how to explain how it's affected me because I don't know myself. I don't think it's really sunk in yet. Like, that he's got it. I think it's going to be more to be this time next year when he's going to ring the bell, where it's going to be sinking in. Fuck, have I just done that for the past 3 years of my life? Like, have we really been through that?
Yeah, listen, man, I mean, what you're going through with your massive respect to you, man. I have to say it. I mean, and big respect to your son, Warriors. As I say, look, his dad's a fighter. I'm sure he's a fighter. I'm sure you're going to get through this.
If he can fight that horrible disease, I can get in there and have a punch up with any man for 6 minutes.
100%, man, 100%. I suppose that goes to say that he's your inspiration then. Forget about the athletes. He's your inspiration.
Yeah, basically, yeah. He can fight that, and he's done it with a smile all the way through. I can get in that ring and have a punch up for 6 minutes with a smile on my face.
That's it.
What's a bit of blood? We all bleed the same, so.
That's it, man. That's it.
Everyone bleeds.
Repeat myself again. Kyle is one of the finest from Telford. He's the first pro fighter to come out of Telford.
Is Telford? See, I don't know too much about Telford. Has it got a boxing background? Has it got an MMA background? Why are you just the first guy to come out of Telford that's a bare knuckle boxer?
I think it's more. We've had a few professionals from Telford, like.
Yeah, we've had like Ricky.
Richie Woodall.
Yeah, Richie Woodall.
We got Liam Davis at the moment, bantamweight British champion.
I mean, on the BKB scene, I mean,
There's a few lads.
Want to go pro.
There's a few lads from like Shropshire that do it, but there's no one from Telford. We've got a couple from Shrewsbury, a few from Wem, but there's no one from Telford.
Yeah, it's strange that.
The first one to put Telford on the map.
Is Telford big?
Nah, I don't know. I won't say we're that big.
Probably about half the size of Birmingham, in it, Telford.
It's big enough then. So tell me, who do you want to fight? If you had a BKB fighter right now to choose across all promotions to fight, who would it be?
Nalder.
Why?
Ricky Nalder.
Why?
You're itching for that guy, aren't you?
I took it on my first fight, and I fucked it up myself by breaking my ankle. So I just want that fight with you, man. I had the balls to take it, so to get in there with like Nalder's a BKB Hall of Famer, he's a rough and ready bastard, man. So yeah, let's get in there and mix it with the best. Like they say, to be the best, you got to beat the best, don't you?
Yep.
That's it, man. You do. That's it. You have to get you have to strive for that. If you're not striving to beat the best, then there's no point even fighting. You're just going to become a journeyman in the game. I mean, but even a journeyman, I say this, see, even a journeyman in bare-knuckle boxing is, you're dealing with a next level animal. You know what I mean?
In boxing, the tough old bastards, they're just in there to get you through the rounds, aren't they?
Would you ever move to boxing? Would you ever move to a different sport if you were a different combat sport if you were asked?
I don't think I would. I think I'd stay at the boxing or the bare knuckle. I couldn't go over to MMA or all that. It's too much to think about, worrying about elbows and kicks. Nah, just stick to thinking about someone punching me in the face.
Well, the thing about it is, when it comes to the bare knuckle boxing, the exterior of your face, as you know yourself, it gets cut to pieces. Yeah. But see, in the boxing, I don't know if this is true, and you'll be able to actually tell me if this is shit. This is what people are telling me, is that if you're in the boxing, it's more it's more like internal damage that gets done because you're constantly getting hit.
Yeah, that's what we told that as well. That because of the bigger pad of the gloves and that, it's more repetitive. Than that in your head, innit?
And then out of all three, with MMA, it's the safest because there's been no deaths in MMA. Once you get sparked out, once you go out, that's it. You might get maybe an extra punch, but in boxing or the BKFC or bare knuckle boxing, you get like a 10 count. You can get back up again, just keep taking that punishment. So out of all three, apparently MMA is the safest, even though you can knock somebody into Mars with a knee or an elbow. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Mad. That's the thing with the MMA. I couldn't do it. It's too much to think about. But like you said, when they do spark them, that's it. It stops straight away, innit? But
have you ever done any of the grappling?
Nah.
It's different now. I done a bit of the grappling. It's a lot different. It's you're fucked. You see, when you do it for about 30 seconds, you're fucked. Like, you need to have cardio for that. But it's but as I say, it's not entertaining to watch. So the BKB, in my opinion, bare knuckle boxing is the most entertaining out of all three.
Everyone likes a bit of blood. Everyone likes knockouts, and you're going to get the blood, and you're going to get knockouts in bare knuckle. Exactly.
It's for me. 10 years time, it's going to be the biggest sport in the world, hands down.
Yeah, it'd be as big or bigger than UFC 10 years.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's just look how fast it's grown over the past 5 years.
And that's what you want, because your name's in here now, right? So just say, for instance, it does take off and you become like one of the veterans of the game. Then what happens is you could get in a spot where you're in like a commentary box, you're doing play-by-play, you're doing all that type of stuff. So anybody that's getting into it now that's maybe not making a lot of money, they probably, it'll benefit them in the future whenever all this
talk about it
takes off. It'll take off, like Joe Rogan, and all them boys, even though he didn't fight, but like, you know, you have DC, you have all them fellas in the box making tons of money, mate. So just stick at it and something will give, like.
That's it. That's the plan, mate. To stick at it and get something over. We'll get a contract somewhere.
Yeah. What have you got, a day job?
by any means necessary, I'll get a fucking contract somewhere.
Right,
But
no, you definitely.
Promoters out there, Kyle Goodwin. He needs a contract, and I give him one. He deserves it. Telford's
David
finest.
Fieldman, sign this man up. David, if you're watching, get this man a contract ASAP. You know, Bareknuckle Fighting Championship. That's it, mate. Get the fucking contracts going. We'll get something on the road for you here.
Anyone they put in front of me, man, that's my issue, man. Anyone they put in front, let's have it. Fuck it.
So you fight light heavyweight?
Yeah.
The cruiserweight. So what's MVP? Could you fight MVP?
Nah, he's middleweight, I think.
Fuck's sake, could he not eat a couple of chicken burgers, no?
Fuck,
Fuck, get up there, the fuck, like.
Got a few pound on. My weight, I think, is like Danny Christie, Lorenzo Hunt, and them. That's my weight.
Is Danny Christie that big?
Yeah, sure, he fights at like heavyweight.
Fuck off, does he? I thought he was a lot smaller.
Would you be prepared to take on a fight like that with Danny Christie? Because he's done well, isn't he? Would you be prepared to have a bout with DC? Because I mean, he's look at the damage he's done in his last.
Depends what the money's saying. Fight, money talks, doesn't it? But like I said, Danny's a fucking animal, mate. His last fight, fucking hell, that left hook come from nowhere, mate. Fucking hell. And Terry Brazier ain't no fucking wet wipe like, and Danny.
That was a brutal fight.
If money talks, didn't you fight anyone if money talks?
Come on,
Danny Christie's one of the best fighters.
Kyle.
Sorry, but Danny Christie's one of the best fighters, right? One of the best, brutal, an absolute machine. But if you two fought, what would happen? How would that fight end?
I think it'd be a war in the middle.
Who wins?
It's gonna be me, and I'm gonna have to say myself.
Telford's finest, no doubt about it.
Decision.
Decision. Nah, one of us will go to sleep.
So basically you says, look, you're going to win. So technically you're saying you could knock Danny out. This is the ball rolling for a fight. Danny's looking for a fight here. You're looking for a contract. Maybe David will give you a contract and you can fight. This could be a blockbuster of a fight.
We're gonna have to talk money before I get in there with Danny Christie, though.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man. That's what it is.
It's got to be above 50 bags as well.
Listen, people are going to tune in for that 100%. Listen, David, if you're listening to this here, ring him up, get the contract sorted, and get Danny Christie on. You know what I mean? This is what I want to see.
Do you think you'll be ready for a fight like that, or do you reckon you should get a few more under your belt? Or
I think I'd need to get a few more bare knuckle under my belt before jumping in there with like the lads, the classes like the elite lads. But I'd get in there with anyone. The money's right. I'd get in there with anyone.
Something for the future if the money's right, I suppose.
But yeah, right. I'm after shoot. I've got to go and sort my boys' medicines out.
Well, thanks ever so much. It's been an absolute privilege to have you on, Kyle. And I've got these links in the description box. Go ahead, subscribe to Kyle Goodwin. He's going to be the next #1. Telford's finest, Telford's first ever pro BKB fighter. Much respect to you, sir.
And you. Cheers for having me on, Loden. Say big shout out to all the lads at the gym, everyone that's tuned in and watched. Cheers. Trust me, my name's going to be out there. Remember it.
That's it. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
So there we have it, guys. Telford's finest, Telford's first ever pro BKB boxer.
He's a good lad, isn't he? Like,
yeah, he's a sound lad. I mean, this time I've done a little bit of research. As when I interviewed Tony, I went into it blind. This time around, I did do a little bit of research, and I think because he's from my hometown, you know, it was probably a bit easier for me. But yeah, what a guy! Yeah. What a guy! What a personality!
But that's what you have to do, man. See, when it comes to the whole promotion stuff, you know, you have to get the ball rolling. He's looking for a contract. There's Bareknuckle Fighting Championship. There's Danny Christie. He's looking for a fight. Do you know what I mean? If you know, whatever I can do to help, I can help. If that was clipped, or obviously, if I don't know if David would see that, but just to get the promotion rolling, because I always say this, right? See, when it comes to these new promotions, take it out of the promoter's hands. If you want a contract, or if you want to do something, always take it out of the promoter's hands. Self-promote yourself. Make it easy for the promoter. Because what will happen is that's when the contracts come. That's when the money comes. See all this bullshit. You see these fighters and they go, I'll leave it up to the promoter. I'll fight anybody next. What you do is you pick somebody to fight. You start the beef. You start the promotion for the fight. And that is a promotion's dream. And they will sign you straight away. That's listening to the great, I don't know if you listen to him, Shiel Sonnen. He's an MMA fighter and he's now turned promoter. He talks about this, about take it out of the promoter's hands, and this is how you essentially start in the game, especially with bare knuckle boxing. So it's one of the most up and coming sports. It's brutal, it's entertaining, and listen, I would pay to watch Kyle fight Danny Christie. At the end of the day, that's England v England, isn't it? That's home soil.
North versus
war.
South. North versus South, that would be.
Is that North versus South? I don't know the geographics of England, you say, forgive me, Steve, but is Telford, whereabouts is Telford in the south?
Well, it's called the West Midlands, but where Danny is, that's up more north. So you could be, in fact, North versus West.
Are you a bunch of posh bastards, Steve?
Eh?
Are you a bunch of posh bastards? I bet you drink tea like this. Do you drink tea like that? Do you have tea at 2 o'clock? Like, look at that. Oh, fuck, mugs. So you don't drink tea like this?
Oh, yes. No, I'm not one of them. I came from that. And
did you?
I brought myself down here into Telford from London. So I've downgraded instead of upgraded. But
we have to do your story, Steve.
I'll tell you what, Ronan, that'll be the fight to watch, though.
100%, man. 100%. This is what you want. This is what it is. Awesome. Get the ball rolling. Get the ball rolling for Kyle. Get the ball rolling. Listen, I don't give a fuck. I just say what I think. Do you know what I mean? I'll come on here, especially when it comes to the fighting and stuff. If guys are coming on like Tony Meehan, Kyle, even Dan Vinny, as established as Dan Vinny is, like if people don't know who Dan Vinny is, I've done his podcast. Go check it out on my Holden official channel. Go check that out. He's a 50-plus fight veteran in MMA, fought for Bellator, has headlined on Bellator, and is an absolute war machine. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt that trains out of Dubai and is from London. This guy is a machine. He also looks like Leonardo da Vinci. I'm not going to lie to you, the guy actually does look like Leonardo da Vinci, and he's an MMA historian. And even with guys like this, sometimes it just takes a bit of promotion, a bit of like an idiot like myself, an idiot like you, Steve, that just will kickstart it for them, that will get them to fight the Danny Christie fight, the whatever. He's the same. Brett May, why does he not fight Brett May?
That could be a challenge. I mean, but then, see, to me, whereas I was speaking to Tony the other day, he's self-taught, he's self-trained. Whereas with Kyle, he's obviously got an awesome fucking trainer, Ash Addison. I mean, he's won quite a few belts, and incidentally, Kyle's got an 8-man prize fight coming up in the next couple of weeks.
You just talked about Tony there. Tony's an absolute animal. I've went down the rabbit hole of his fights. That guy is a fucking animal. But he's a gentleman too. At the same time, you speak to him, he's one of the nicest guys you ever speak to. He's a fucking animal. These people are different. They're wired different. There's something wrong with them. Did you see is Tony, man? He jumped into the hay bales that time. He just jumped, and there's that meme where you have that funny meme where it's just like somebody screaming.
That was a bit weird, because I thought people would have done it the way Kyle did, like ultra white collar boxing, which introduces you into the sport. Whereas, like with Tony, he jumped straight into the fucking pit fighting, So everyone's got their own different ways of how to approach this.
Tony. Listen, but Tony is an animal though, and he can fight. The difference is he's always looking for the show reel. If you're going to sign Tony Meehan to bare knuckle box, just say he fought for BKFC, right? He got on the biggest stage for BKFC. That would be one of the big. one of the biggest signings for BKFC for the simple fact is that they're getting entertainment. You're not okay. Has he got a wee bit to learn? 100% he does. He would say that himself. But is he going to bring the entertainment? 100% he is. He's not going to. That guy's going to go out in the shield 100% of the time. There's no quit in him. He's going to go out there. He's going to look for the KO or be KO'd. And that's just the way he fights.
I mean, maybe I'm a bit biased towards Kyle because obviously he's a hometown talent.
And Kyle too.
Kyle's got it to go right to the top, and you know, I'm hoping there is a promoter out there that spots him and signs him because he deserves a good contract. Kyle does.
Well, it's not just about getting signed by any promoter now. It's about moving up the ranks. It's because what are you worth? This guy, Kyle, he's worth something. He's worth a lot. He's got a few issues in his home life there in regards to what's going on. You know, his son's a warrior. He's a warrior. You know, so it's not just about just taking any fight willy-nilly. You know, he's worth obviously his weight in gold. So sometimes you have to reject an offer, wait a wee while to get a better offer because, as I say, we don't know where this bare knuckle fighting is going to go because I reckon, this is just my opinion, I reckon in the next 6 to 7 years, I reckon McGregor's going to have a bare knuckle boxing fight, or one of these big MMA guys, or all of these big MMA guys are going to move into bare knuckle boxing. You're going to get guys like maybe Michael Bisping just going, fuck it, I want to have a fight. I know how to throw hands. Let's have a bare knuckle boxing fight. Pick one of the guys that are sort of doing the journey thing at the minute coming up, and we'll have a bare knuckle boxing fight. And it just might be your time. It could be Kyle's time. It could be Tony Meehan in regards to McGregor. People will laugh at that. But trust me when I say this, come back to me in 7 years' time and you'll see the people, the caliber of fighters fighting in bare knuckle boxing. It's going to come a stage, Steve, where you're just going to get training camps, because what I'm hearing is at the minute there's bare knuckle boxing training camps, but they're very traditionally for boxing. So when I was speaking to Dan Vinny, they were telling him to throw certain punches. And he says, well, that's the way you would throw it with a glove on. If I hit a guy in the head, that's going to break my knuckle. But if I throw it like this, if I throw a punch like this, it's not going to hurt my hand as much. And he did. And this is what I'm saying. It will evolve. People will start to just have a style for fighting. I understand that the Travelers already have that, but they'll develop, just like MMA, a sole style for bare knuckle boxing, for each sort of discipline, with the clinch, without the clinch, preferably with the clinch, because we know that the clinch makes the bare knuckle boxing better. It you know, with the inside boxing, with holding of the head, uppercuts and things like that. So as I say, it's big times ahead, and I could see a guy like McGregor fighting in bare knuckle boxing. And if Tony Meehan, if one of these guys are in that vicinity, God knows what could happen. It could just be your time, and next minute you're sitting, you're on a card, and you've just made yourself $1 million.
I mean, BKB's definitely taken off, and it is going to be the biggest platform out there above all of the MMA and all of that. It's been around for say like 3 years, but I know for a fact BKB's going to take over.
Well, let's get this clear, Steve. It's going to take a lot to take over Dana White. Dana White is the best promoter the world has ever seen. Dana White, the UFC is worth $5 billion. $5 billion, right? So he bought that for like $5 million. It's now worth $5 billion. So to get to that level, it's going to take a hell of a lot of work. You're going to have to be ruthless. But as I say, regardless of the worth at the end of it, I do feel like it's going to be up there with one of the biggest sort of promotions and one of the biggest sports in the world. And hopefully it is.
Hopefully it will be. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, BKB is going to take over for sure. And like you say, maybe them fighters will go across to the BKB because they realise that, you know, it's going to get that big.
Well, you had MVP and Mike Perry fighting each other. So Mike Perry, both these MVP, okay, he fights for Bellator. Mike Perry fought in the UFC before bare knuckle boxing. And he left the UFC. Don't forgive me if I'm wrong, and took a BKB. This is what I'm saying. You have these guys coming out of MMA, top tier MMA. People are going to laugh at me and say Mike Perry's not top tier MMA. Mike Perry is top tier MMA. This guy was fighting some of the most ruthless killers in MMA, and he went out of that, and he's fighting now in BKFC. The same as MVP. People are going to laugh at me and say MVP is shit. MVP is one of the greatest martial artists to ever fight in the game. He just didn't fight in the UFC. And you look what he done. Chris Cyborg's husband. He kneed her husband in the face and caved the skull in. You've seen the pictures. These people are animals, and they're fighting in the BKFC, and they've got high profiles with millions of followers on Instagram. Anybody that fights these people, their profile is going to be raised by hundreds of thousands of people, and essentially that's what you want to do, and that's why you want to help these guys, because they're just like us, except we don't fight. And that's, if we needed a break, they need a break, and it'd be good to get one of these guys on that card and get them going.
I do believe though, given a couple of more BKB bouts under Kyle's belt, and he will be prepared and experienced enough to take on the likes of like DC and some of these guys out there that are rising like through the ranks rapidly.
Do you know who I want to see fight? I understand that it says about Danny Christie and Kyle fighting, but if that fight doesn't happen and he doesn't get the BKFC contract, the fight that I want to see is Danny Christie versus Dan Vinny. That is a very, very interesting fight, and for the reason being, Dan Vinny, as I say, 50-plus MMA fights, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and also has hands that he can just release at any moment. He told me on the podcast, I'm going to finish this fight with an uppercut. I'm going to knock this guy out. I'm going to make this guy quit. And I'm going to finish him within 3 rounds. He finished him in the second round with an uppercut. This guy can call fights. You've got Danny Christie, one of the most ferocious punchers in the game. And if these two guys fight, I reckon you couldn't call it. I would love to see Dan Vinny, an artist at fighting. He is an artist at fighting at multiple disciplines against the warrior that is Danny Christie. That would be a pay-per-view dream. I would pay £100 to watch that one fight alone.
I would as well. I mean, because like you say, when you're confident enough to call the fight, especially how it's going to end. I mean, that person's got so much experience behind his belt, like you say. Not many people could actually call the fight and make it happen like that way that they've called it. So yeah, I agree that would be an awesome fight, and I too would pay £100 to watch that.
Guys, go check out Dan Vinny. Go check out Danny Christie. Both these guys are absolute warriors. You've probably seen Danny Christie. You've probably seen Dan Vinny if you're veterans of watching the fight game, should I say? But this is the fight to make. These are the fights that we want to see. We want to see these. It was, in my opinion, Conan Barnaby. Forgive me if I said that name wrong. Big respect to Dan Vinny's opponent. He was good, but he was no match for Dan Vinny. Dan Vinny called it. He said it in my podcast. He finished the way he was going to say it. This guy's a bloody psychic or something. You have Danny Christie, war machine. He's coming into this now. He knows you can fit. You're seeing it in his videos. He wants to finish fights. He wants to get fights. He would fight every 2 months if he could. He would fight every week if it wasn't that brutal with his face. But this is the fight that you want to see. And I want to react to something. Danny Christie fights at light heavyweight.
I'm not sure to what DC's weight is. I'm not sure.
Kyle says that Danny Christie fights at light heavyweight.
Well, so what would that be in stonage then? Is that?
I don't have a clue, but I know light heavyweight's heavy. I didn't think Danny Christie was that big.
I'm not sure. I'll have to research on that, but
that opens up a lot of doors because there's a lot of fighters coming into BKFC. Dan Vinny fights at light heavyweight too, I think. So I reckon these guys. Listen, I could be wrong about the weight divisions. I know there's a load of weight divisions in BKFC. I don't know. About the weight divisions, but I reckon these two guys are around about the same weight. I can't believe Danny Christie's is that big. He doesn't look that big when you watch him on the through his videos. Maybe that's the phone's deceiving.
I know he
fair
gave a
play.
lot of weight away when he fought the person I won't name. He gave about 4 stone away, was it? I believe.
Well, look, I suppose we're talking about the fights here, so we can say his name. We're not going to say anything. We're not going to talk about allegations or any of them things. So I can say his name. It's not Voldemort at the end of the day. It's Deca Higgy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Listen, I watched that fight. Personally, myself, was I biased at the time? I was friends with Deca. Then we know what happened. I came to the realization that possibly things could be true. We're not going to get into that. But whenever I watched that fight, I thought back and I thought, did I watch that through biased eyes? Because I seen Deca was an animal. Deca was 100% an animal. Listen, talking about fighting here, Deca Higgy is a fucking animal, right? He may not have finesse. When he fought the Dean Lynch Ward, I seen a different Deca Higgy. I seen a Deca Higgy with footwork, head movement. Is that because Dean didn't really show up the best? Maybe. Did he make Deca Higgy look good? I don't know. But for me, Deca Higgy's upped his game in regards to fighting. He's trained a bit more. I had it a draw. I had it for Deca winning. I called it. I have to stick by that. I thought Deca won the fight between Danny Christie and I thought he won that fight with Danny Christie. But looking back, it was a draw. Now I understand that he opened Danny Christie turned Deca into Harry Potter with that scar, but at the same time, Deca had a few moments in that fight to make it a draw. Now looking back, I would say it's a draw. I say it was probably a good draw.
So I watched one of Kyle's fights, right? And I think Kyle was fighting a guy called Joey Pugh, right? And this Joey Pugh was a fucking giant, built like a brick shithouse. Basically, he was massive, about 6'9", 6'10". It was like a Hulk. And I had to watch it back twice, because the size difference and the way they both slugged it out. All I give is maximum props to Kyle. I wouldn't have stepped in the ring with a person like Pugh. I mean, he was massive, Kyle. Ronan, he was massive.
To get into a ring with a guy that's 6'5" plus, I'm 6 foot 14 stone. I put on a few pounds. Over the years, right? I'm 6 foot 13 and a half to 14 stone fluctuating, right? In the morning, I probably could be 13 and a half stone. I couldn't imagine what it's like to stand in with a guy that's 6'5" plus. It would just, we all seen the David Hay, what do you call it? He fought a guy, David Hay. There was another, I forget his name. The beast, he was from Russia. He was like a big hairy beast. He was fucking massive. But what do you do there? Like, does skill come? I suppose skill does come into it because you have to learn how to stay behind a jab. You have to learn to be elusive because if you get hit by one of these guys, you're getting hit by a train.
I mean, the thing is, they've got reach over you for starters, and then maybe Kyle's power matched Joey Pugh's, but I mean, how do you prepare to go into? If you get a chance to have a look back at the video, Ronan, it's Joey Pugh. Kyle.
No, I'll give it a watch. Listen, as I say, forgive me. I didn't really do my homework on Kyle. There's so many fighters. I am a fight fan. I watch everything. Lethway. I don't know if you know about Lethway with a headbutt. You're allowed headbutts. Do you ever watch Lethway? It's I forget exactly the country where it comes from, but you're allowed headbutts. You're allowed to headbutt people. It's fucking mental. The BKFC, the MMA, to all these things. So there's so many fighters that I'm covering. So forgive me for not doing my homework on Kyle. But listen, the guy seems to be.
How would you prepare? How would you prepare to fight someone that's like twice your size? I mean, I wouldn't know where to start.
Well, I remember I don't know. Listen, this is just grappling, all right? So it could be completely different, right? Whenever you have these grappling competitions. Some of them are sanctioned and some of them aren't, right? Some of them it's a bunch of friends get together and they just do a bit of grappling, right? So it's different because there's different weight distribution when it comes to the grappling, the takedowns, when somebody's lying on top of you. If you've got a big guy that can just lie on top of you, right? Now, if you're talking about boxing, right, you're talking about, well, if the bigger guy's going to obviously be slower, right? So you always have to make sure that you're going to be elusive and step away from his punches, because if you can't do that and you get clipped by one of these sledgehammers or they hit you, it's going to give you brain damage because you're not used to that type of force hitting your head. So I don't think you could fight aggressive. So if it was me, I would say, look, my game plan would be is to punch and move, switch stances from orthodox to southpaw, head movement, things like that. Well, not even just so much head movement, but footwork to sort of trick him, because the angle to punch these guys, a bigger guy, you might need to reach up, or maybe if you're going for a body shot, you're going to leave yourself exposed to getting punched yourself. So you have to, there's so many different factors to go into it. But I'll definitely watch that fight. Did he win that fight?
I think he come up a bit short on that one, but I mean, as an example to like the fighters that you can face, I mean, the guy was an absolute fucking giant. But in all fairness, I mean, Kyle gave as good as what he got. I thought, for sure.
He didn't get knocked out.
No, he come up a little bit short. But fair play. I mean, that's where I was talking to Kyle about heart. Because any other person, they would have gone down a lot sooner. And I was saying to Kyle, that's where the heart comes into the fighting world. If you haven't got the heart, then you'll go down. But whereas Kyle and quite a lot of others, they've got the heart. Tony, he's got the heart. I think that's what carries you forward in your career more than anything. That heart and technique, I think.
Well, obviously heart comes into it. You have to have the heart. You have to, at those dying moments, whenever you've been chinned, when there's blood pissing out of your eye, you've got your face is cut up. What's the point of you carrying on? You're still going to get the same money unless there's a knockout bonus. So that's essentially, what heart is, to carry this on, to finish this fight. And we've seen it throughout the years in multiple different combat sports, multiple different disciplines, that the people that have the heart will go on and win the fight. Do you know what I mean? It's essentially how some people do. Now, that's why I'm not a fighter. I've been, I just don't have I wouldn't have the heart to carry on in a fight after my face is shredded to pieces. And I know that I've got maybe some type of internal bleeding to actually try and go on and win that fight. So it is hard. It is down to heart. And it's also down to ego. A lot of guys have ego. Like, for instance, we're in a fight. No guy wants to lose a fight. You take a fight, you train for the fight, you want to win the fight. There's people watching. We've heard about boxers. Their wife has been in the crowd. They've gotten beat, and their wife's left them after the fight because they've got beat. There's this ego thing that, listen, we're going to go in here. We're going to do the monkey thing, beat her chest, go in, spark that guy out, and go home with the fittest looking woman, all the money in her back pocket, and live like a king.
I think adrenaline as well has got a lot to do with it. I mean, because when you're actually in there and the adrenaline's going through you, I think heart, adrenaline, that's what carries them, especially if your face is all busted up. I mean, the adrenaline at that time, I don't think it actually registers until afterwards, because of the adrenaline going through the body at the time. I mean, but definitely you've got to have heart. If you ain't got heart, then there's no point even starting, I reckon.
No, 100%, man. I think you need to start out with that sort of adrenaline, the heart. Listen, here's me talking about how you should start out. I've never took a professional fight, a stand-up fight in my life, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I would say, if it was going to guess, you would need to start out with, you have to love it, you have to have the heart, you have to have the will to train, you have to not go in there with no fear. I think what changes people is whenever they win the title. We see a lot of this here shit. I'm just going to use for an example. McGregor, right? He wins the belt. He gets, he wins the interim belt off Chad Mendes, and that's still not good enough. He knows that the actual belt, Jose Aldo has it, goes in, starches Aldo, and then becomes a prick. Becomes an absolute prick.
I mean, the other thing is, what I respect about fighters is the way they come back after a loss.
Well,
that's a good way. I would judge a fighter on the way he comes back from, coming up short from a loss.
100%. Like, I mean, yeah. Listen, and that's sort of maybe I'm going to sort of be a hypocrite, or not hypocritical, but I'm going to contradict myself here by saying that, I'm going to use McGregor as another example. He lost to Nate Diaz. I knew he was going to lose that fight, and then he comes back, makes the adjustments, and beats him in the second fight. So, it's maybe not the belt, but it's like some fighters, when you're hungry, you'll win. When you're hungry for that, you will win.
And then when they've won the belt, they lose that hunger, don't they? Because they've actually reached to that top, got the belt. Some fighters lose a little bit of that hunger, don't they? Because when you're wanting to get it, your hunger's like right there.
Well, that's the difference between these Muslim MMA fighters coming from Dagestan. And I've been talking to a few of these guys. I've been talking to a few of the training partners, and what is coming from them is that whenever they fight, the reason why they have these long careers, and they take any fight that's coming to them, which is actually wrong too, because if you look at Khabib's career, he fought he fought like 15 fucking tomato cans. They were just shit fighters. Like you, no disrespect, but you would beat them, Steve. Do you know what I mean? I would beat them. They're that shit. But regardless, he still went down there and he done it. But a lot of these guys, they're fighting for pride. They're fighting for the religion. They're fighting for their country. So essentially, even when they have the belt, that's not good enough for them. They're not even fighting for money. They're fighting for the pride for their home. And a lot of the guys coming from Europe, like McGregor, coming from England, they don't have that. Once they get the belt, they get the women, they get the money, they maybe take a bit of the devil's dandruff. Do you know what I mean? And it just goes because they've got nothing to fight for. With these, I do believe there's a wave of Russian, Dagestani sort of Muslim fighters coming in that are absolutely dominating the game, completely dominating the game.
Cheers, James. Guy, big up, sir. How you doing? Hope you're doing well, James. Yeah, I believe a lot of these fighters, they do lose a little bit of hunger, when they've got the title. But to me, it's maybe it'll be a bit easier to win the title, but it's a heck of a lot harder to keep hold of that title once you've got it.
I don't know what will be harder, going from number 10 to number 2 to fight number 1, because you have to go through all those killers regardless. But at the same sense, once you have the belt, you only have to fight twice a year. I'm going to just say MMA, right? You only have to fight twice a year. And boxing, I think it's twice a year too. You only have to fight, maybe sort of defend that twice a year. And that's a big ask, because if you think about it, that's a 3-month training camp. That's 6 months you're taking out of a year. That's a half a year you're basically just focusing on boxing. So or MMA or whatever. And I know there's guys out there that like to do it 3 times. But I don't know what would be harder, because if you're going up the ranks, you have to face all the people. You have to prove yourself that you're ready for the number 1 spot to become champion. But if you're champion, like Michael Bisping, he fobbed off a fight with Dan Henderson. And fair enough, Dan Henderson sparked him clean out. That famous punch that that Dan Henderson has on his logo, where Dan Henderson's sitting over the top and Michael Bisping's sitting there with the tongue hanging out of his mouth, the eyes rolling in the back of his head. And he fought Dan Henderson while he was champion. And Dan Henderson was ranked number 12, I think. So I don't know. When you're champion, maybe you can pick and choose your fights, and it might be a bit easier, but it might be a bit harder to come up the ranks to actually get to the number 2 to fight for the championship.
But you would think though, once they've caught the title, they've got to look back inside themselves, you know, to reignite that hunger, you know, to keep that title. To me, I would have thought, my opinion would be, it's slightly easier to work your way up from like position 10 to position 2 to position 1, than what it actually would to keep that title, because in yourself you know that you're there, you know, you're the man, so the bit of that hunger goes. But there's always someone underneath you that's got that more bit of hunger, you know, than what the champ or the person holding the belt at that time has. But
Good
either
point.
way,
Oh,
I mean, I always would better judge a person, on the way that they come back from a loss.
no, listen, good points. Dave. No, I get what you're saying. 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. Just looking at, listen, it depends, because you could come into the game, you could have charisma, you could put bums on seats. At the end of the day, that's what the whole fight game's about. It's not just about having fighting skills; it's about making people buy pay-per-views. And if you gain that traction, you might only need 3 fights for you to challenge for a belt, because you have that charisma. People want to see you fight. But for instance, if you're not that type of a guy, and you're just in it and you don't want to do any camera work, and you're just fucking about, pardon me, you're just fucking about, it's gonna be harder. So you can fast track these things. So it's 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. You know, it is what it is. There's maybe no right answer to that.
But I mean, either way, I mean, BKB's definitely going to be taking over for sure. There's a heck of a lot of good fighters out there, and there's going to be new fighters coming into the game as well.
Yeah, man, there's going to be a ton of new fighters coming in here. I mean a ton. What you're going to witness over the next 7 to 10 years with this bare knuckle boxing wave, you're going to see multiple promotions opened. You think bare knuckle boxing championship is going to be the only one? There's going to be multiple opening in the United States, multiple opening in England, Ireland, all over, and the cream of the crop's going to rise to the top. I do believe that the bare knuckle fighting championship will be the cream of the crop. I think he got in there at the right time. You've seen his tweets from 2011. He had this idea that this is what he wanted to do, bare knuckle boxing with the clinch, and he knew that this would work. But what you're going to witness here is this is good. Jump on this now when you can. Watch the bare knuckle boxing. Watch these guys, because you're going to be watching history become, as I say, if I start watching this now, in the next 10, 15 years, you'll be sort of like an historian at these fights, and you'll have all this underneath you, all this knowledge of fighting underneath you, and you'll be able to look back and say, I seen this fight, I seen that fight, I seen this fight, while these guys are making £3 million, maybe, or £3 to £4 million headlining bare knuckle boxing fights in 10 to 15 years time. It will happen, and you're going to see big fighters jumping over.
I mean, it's going to be, so I don't know what the paydays are like for the bare knuckle fighters out there that have got contracts. I mean, but you can definitely make a full-time career out of it, though, couldn't you?
Well, this is where I don't understand, because I understand what goes into a show, right? So, for instance, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into a show. So you got your guy David Fielderman, right? Who's the promoter for bare knuckle boxing fighting championship, BKFC, and he's paying these guys a lot of money. There's a lot of these guys jumping over from the UFC. They're making double what they're making in the UFC. Now, my only question that would be is, are you selling pay-per-views, and are you putting bums on seats enough to pay these fighters, or are you paying these fighters with loans? Maybe you're taking out loans from the bank, maybe your investments, maybe it's money yourself that you're putting into this, and you're just hoping, if I put enough money into this, it will take off and I'm going to get a return on this. Because if that's the case, that's where it can get dicey. That's where companies can liquidate. That's when companies get sold. That's when things get a wee bit dicey. But if he is already making that much money where he can actually pay fighters, I don't know, $600,000 per fight, $300,000 per fight, even $100,000 per fight. If he's at that stage already and he's actually bringing in that type of revenue and making a profit himself, that's big, because that's only going to get better.
I mean, I've seen recently. I don't know if it's actually out in the domain yet. I mean, but like Dougie Joyce set up the 3D Fight Club. I do believe now he's teamed up with Aaron Lambo. So that's
what I would
maybe to.
So he's teamed up with Aaron Lambo, but listen, this is no disrespect. I like Aaron Lambo. Fair play to Aaron Lambo. I love his videos. I watch him. He calls out every cunt left, right, and centre. But what's their model here? I want to know what's 3D Fight Club's model, because I've been watching it. They've had 2 shows. I want to know their model. Are they going to introduce a clinch? Because I would say anybody now has to be on par with the BKFC. And if you're just doing it for a few pound and you think it's not going to be here in 2 years, sweet, dead on. I'll watch it anyway for the absolute crack. But if this is for a longevity plan and you think that you want to have this as an actual massive promotion in the future, you just can't be getting sort of low ranked YouTubers on. You have to be thinking about like this person promotion, a promotional team, guys that actually know what they're talking about, having maybe somebody, not yes men around you, people that are going to turn around and say, well, actually I disagree with that and I think that you're talking shit and it should be done this way. Somebody that's going to challenge you. That's how promotions get better. And I can't stress this enough. Any promotion right now that's in bare knuckle boxing needs to implement the clinch, because it's the clinch that is making the game, and it's the clinch that it's attracting MMA stars over to these promotions. Without the clinch, you will not get these big MMA stars, and you'll just fade off into the distance.
I mean, I think I've watched a couple of bouts where you got the clinch. I take it that's where you can get in close, you can hold your opponent, but you actually got to keep punching at the same time. Is that the right definition for a clinch?
So some people will have a clinch for 2 seconds and then they break. So traveling rules, there's no clinch. Once you clinch up on your opponent, you can have the underhooks, you can have the overhooks, once you clinch up on your opponent, they break it straight away. It's just throwing hands only. And it's a very honourable way. I'm not getting at that, by the way. I think it's a very honourable way of fighting. Big up to the Joyces. I speak to William Joyce. I had the pleasure of meeting Big Joe Joyce. I'm doing a lot for the Young Joe Joyce campaign at the minute. Free Young Joe Joyce, guys. Hashtag Free Young Joe Joyce. Please use that in any hashtags and all social medias.
Justice for Joe Joyce.
Justice for Joe Joyce. So, these, I have a lot of respect for that way of fighting. It's a very honourable old way of fighting, and I think if you're going to sort of beef, it's a really good way. It really sorts the men from the boys. But for pure entertainment value, if you aren't implementing a clinch into your promotion, it's not going to go anywhere, because you're not going to attract the MMA guys. Pardon me, the guys that are coming out of the Bellators, that are coming out of the One Championships, that are coming out of the UFCs, because they'll look at that and they'll see the BKFC and they go, well, they've got the clinch. We already know how to do that. We can clinch. We can get a bit of dirty boxing going. We could maybe wrap a guy up in a clinch that doesn't have a clue what he's doing and spark them clean out. Why would we do that when we can go here? Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. So if for the 3D Fight Clubs, for these new promotions coming up, they need somebody that's telling them this. And if nobody's telling them this, they need to get guys ASAP in to tell them this shit.
I mean, it is a bit of a multi-platform, the 3D Fight Club. I mean, because weren't they getting some fighters on from America? I mean, but they have to push forward, like you say, allow the clinches in to attract the MMA fighters onto the platform, and that will make it even bigger than what it is at the moment. Not
just that. It's not just for the MMA fighters. It's for the pure entertainment value. You're seeing a referee stand back, watch 2 fighters in a clinch in the center, up against the squared circle. You're seeing this. and the referee's not getting involved, and you're seeing, and what it actually does is you're allowing these guys to clinch up, and you're seeing a lot of different types of boxing. Do you know what I mean? You're seeing guys maybe even using it for a rest for 10 seconds. Yeah, it just brings a whole different dynamic to the game, and I think it's the only way to go. If personally myself, if I was watching a bare knuckle fighting, a bare knuckle show, and I knew that there wasn't any clinch in it, I probably wouldn't be as attracted to that promotion as I would others that do implement this.
I mean, maybe you're absolutely correct there with the reason why the boxer's going for the clinch is to get that 10-second breather.
Well, if you're doing that,
clinch, you know, they got no chance of that breather, have they? So, yes, for entertainment purposes, it's spot on with what you said, Ronan.
Well, if you're doing that with an MMA guy, if a boxer fights an MMA guy, right, and a clinch is allowed, the MMA guy's got it wrapped up in the bag. He's winning that fight all day long, even if it's a low-ranked MMA fighter. He's beating a world champion boxer, because that boxer's never been in that world before. He doesn't even know what it's like to be in that type of a scenario. He's getting the arms pulled, chest in, getting pulled up round, the head down. You're putting your head into the person. Do you know what I mean? All different types of work that they've never seen, you know, pressure that they've never felt. And it's really, really entertaining to watch. And then they break off, and it's just the best way to start a promotion. And you know, if I can't stress it enough, if anybody's watching from 3D Fight Club, if anybody does watch this from 3D Fight Club, implement a clinch straight away. And if anybody complains about it, say this is how we're fucking doing it, because in the long run, it's going to benefit.
All right, I'll wrap it up there, I think. Just want to do a couple of pre-recordings with you now.
Good man, Steve.
Guys, thanks ever so much for tuning in, and don't forget to give Kyle Goodwin's channel a subscribe and a like. The link is in the description box. Also, don't forget to give Ronan Holden official channel a like and subscribe. The link's in the description box also. So from me, from Ronan, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Peace.
Peace.